Jeff Chandler wasn't just a star, he was the definition of mid-century masculinity. With his towering 6'4" frame, distinctive silver hair, and authoritative voice, Chandler was a fixture of 1950 seconds Hollywood cinema. Audiences adored him for his roles in war dramas, westerns, and romantic epics. He could command a screen with stoic silence or charismatic charm, portraying everything from Native American warriors like Cochise in Broken Arrow, which earned him an Oscar nomination, to military officers and gallant lovers. He was, in many ways, the embodiment of what a leading man was supposed to be. But behind that strong, rugged image was a man burdened by inner conflict, secrecy, and a pressure to conform that would ultimately take its toll. While his public persona radiated confidence, Jeff Chandler's private world was far more complex. Off-screen, Chandler was intensely private, even enigmatic. Friends described him as kind yet withdrawn, someone who carried a quiet heaviness behind his warm smile. He rarely partied, kept relationships at arm's length, and seemed, at times, lost within himself. Though he dated Hollywood legends like Susan Hayward, Esther Williams, and was even rumored to have had a fling with Marilyn Monroe, few of these romances ever lasted. Some suspected it wasn't about the women, it was about a deeper identity crisis that Chandler never felt safe expressing. Hollywood in the 1950s was a place of smoke and mirrors. Studios controlled every aspect of a star's life: their image, their interviews, their love lives, even their secrets. Chandler, signed under Universal Pictures, was no exception. Studios orchestrated relationships for photo ops, suppressed rumors with the help of gossip columnists, and actively concealed anything that strayed from the all-American ideal. For a leading man like Chandler, being seen as anything less than hyper-masculine could destroy his career. In this rigid world, Chandler's rumored private struggles posed a threat not just to his livelihood, but to his entire sense of self. He was, reportedly, someone who grappled with inner identity conflicts, possibly tied to gender expression or sexuality. But those topics were unspeakable in 1950s Hollywood. It wasn't just dangerous to be different, it was career suicide. So Chandler remained silent, and the world only saw what the studios allowed them to see. Then, nearly 4 decades after his untimely death, the carefully curated legacy of Jeff Chandler was jolted by a revelation that made headlines and reopened questions long buried. In 1999, Olympic swimmer turned Hollywood star Esther Williams published her memoir, The $1 Million Mermaid. In it, she revealed a bombshell. During her romantic relationship with Chandler, she once walked into his bedroom to find him wearing women's clothing. The revelation stunned readers. Williams didn't describe it with cruelty, but rather as something that shocked her and led to the end of their relationship. Yet the implications were seismic. Chandler, the ultimate man's man, was now associated with cross-dressing, a concept that violently clashed with the roles he'd played and the image he'd left behind. Hollywood insiders and Chandler's defenders rushed to his name. Some labeled Williams a liar, accusing her of exploiting a long-dead ex for book sales. Others claimed she misunderstood or exaggerated. But despite the backlash, her story planted a seed. It invited people to reconsider who Jeff Chandler truly was and what he may have endured in silence. Importantly, this wasn't the first time questions about Chandler's private life had surfaced. Industry whispers had existed long before Williams' memoir. Insiders described Chandler as elusive and distant. Stylists and assistants, often unnamed in biographical accounts, hinted that his wardrobe in private was different from the one fans knew. Some biographers have since speculated that Chandler may have lived with gender dysphoria or cross-dressed in private for comfort, identity exploration, or emotional relief. While none of these claims can be confirmed with certainty, they illuminate a much larger truth. Chandler, like many stars of the era, was likely forced to hide essential parts of who he was. Whether Esther Williams' story was entirely factual or tinged with misinterpretation, it served a purpose. It broke through the veneer of old Hollywood perfection and reminded the public that fame often came with a devastating price. Chandler's legacy wasn't diminished by the story, it was humanized. It forced audiences to reckon with the hypocrisy of an industry that demanded authenticity in performance but punished it in real life. Jeff Chandler's life was not just defined by the roles he played, but by the pain he possibly endured just trying to exist within an unforgiving system. The speculation surrounding his identity isn't salacious gossip, it's a lens into the era's oppressive expectations and the emotional toll it took on its stars. At a time when gender norms were absolute and rigid, someone like Chandler would have had nowhere to turn. Therapy, support groups, or openness around identity were simply not options for men of his stature. If he was different, he had to bear that difference alone. The stress of maintaining this public illusion may have also contributed to his declining health. In 1961, Chandler underwent routine surgery for a slipped disc in his back. What should have been a straightforward procedure turned into a tragedy. During recovery, he began hemorrhaging internally, a result of botched medical care. He died soon after from complications related to massive blood transfusions. He was only 42. The industry mourned his loss, but in the wake of his sudden death, questions lingered. Had the emotional and psychological toll of his double life contributed to the physical decline? Had his body simply given out under the weight of years spent suppressing his truth? Unlike other stars of his time like Rock Hudson or Montgomery Clift, Jeff Chandler's legacy wasn't thoroughly re-examined after his death. He faded from public consciousness, his films appreciated but his story rarely revisited. That is, until Esther Williams reopened the file. Her controversial anecdote made many uncomfortable, but it also gave Chandler something he never had in life, the chance for his story to be told. Honestly, in all its complexity, Jeff Chandler's experience is not unique. He was part of a generation of actors who were shaped, marketed, and controlled by an industry that left no room for personal freedom. Many lived and died in silence, forced to hide their true selves. Today, Chandler's story serves as a vital reminder of what happens when authenticity is sacrificed at the altar of image. It invites us to reflect on how far we've come and how much farther we have to go in accepting and supporting those who don't fit into neat categories. In remembering Jeff Chandler, we shouldn't just recall the polished star of Broken Arrow or Return to Peyton Place. We should remember the man behind the scenes, the one who may have struggled deeply, who longed to be seen for who he really was, and who never had the chance to tell his own story. That story, however incomplete, is worth telling, because it isn't just about Hollywood history, it's about humanity. And in the end, Chandler's greatest performance may not have been on screen, but in the quiet courage it took to survive in a world that demanded he be anyone but himself.
Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.